Signals from the stars. The twin moons of Novara cast long shadows across Haven Colony's weathered buildings as Ilara Chen climbed the metal stairs to the communications tower. 5 years had passed since the last transmission from Earth, 5 years of silence that weighed heavier than the portable oxygen tank strapped to her back. The thin atmosphere of their adopted world made every climb a struggle, but Ilara had long ago grown accustomed to the burn in her lungs. At the top of the tower, she unlocked the small control room that housed what remained of their link to humanity. Most of the equipment had been repurposed for the colony's more immediate needs, but Ilara had fought to keep this final transmitter operational. Day 1825. She logged into the system. Haven Colony status. Surviving. 38 colonists remaining. Resources stable but limited. Atmospheric adaptation progressing slowly. Still awaiting contact from Earth Command. Please respond. She sent the message knowing it would likely join the thousands before it. Unanswered calls into the void. The colony had been established as a mining outpost for rare minerals found in Novara's northern mountains. Regular supply ships were supposed to arrive every 8 months. Then came scattered reports of conflict in the home system, followed by complete silence. Director Kessler had declared that they needed to focus on self-sufficiency rather than rescue, but Ilara maintained her daily ritual. Someone had to remember they weren't alone in the universe. As she was powering down the system to conserve energy, a light flickered on her console, one that hadn't activated in 5 years. The signal detector was registering something in orbit. Ilara froze, her hand hovering over the shutdown switch. She quickly reversed course, powering systems back up and running diagnostics to ensure it wasn't equipment failure. The signal grew stronger. "Please be Earth," she whispered. When the computer finally identified the signal pattern, her hope transformed into cold dread. The transmission used no known human frequencies or encryption. Whatever orbited their planet wasn't from Earth. She reached for the colony's internal communication system. "Director Kessler," she said, struggling to keep her voice steady. "You need to come to the comm tower immediately." Within 20 minutes, the small control room was crowded with the colony's leadership. Director Marcus Kessler, once a corporate mining supervisor and now their reluctant leader, studied the readouts with a deep frown. "You're certain it's not one of ours?" he asked. "Positive," Ilara replied. "The signal structure is completely alien. And look at the size readings." She pointed to the radar display. "It's massive, at least twice the size of any Earth vessel in our records." Dr. Imani Okafor, their chief scientist, leaned closer to the screen. Could it be first contact? Maybe Earth made new allies during whatever conflict cut us off. Thomas Rivera, head of security and former military, shook his head. He still carried his regulation sidearm, one of the few weapons they possessed. After 5 years without a word, seems convenient. "Whether they're friendly or not," Dr. Okafor said, "we need to prepare for both possibilities." Director Kessler nodded grimly. "Ilara, keep monitoring. See if you can translate any of their communications. Thomas, gather your security team. Imani, what can we use for defense if we need it?" "Mining lasers might work if reconfigured," Dr. Okafor suggested. "They're meant for cutting rock, not combat. But it's something." "Do what you can," Kessler ordered. "Everyone else, we tell the colony, but calmly. No panic. We don't know anything yet." As the others filed out, Ilara stayed at her station, scanning all frequencies for any hint of communication from the mysterious vessel. She felt oddly calm despite the situation. After years of desperate hoping for contact, the reality of it happening left her feeling strangely detached. Night fell over Haven, the colony's lights dimming as people conserved power. Only the communication tower remained fully lit and active. Just after midnight, Ilara's console lit up again. "They're moving," she announced to Director Kessler, who had remained with her. "Coming into lower orbit." They watched in silence as the radar tracked the vessel's approach. It wasn't heading directly for the colony, but seemed to be making a systematic survey of the planet. "They're scanning us," Ilara said, pointing to new signal patterns. "Comprehensive scans, atmosphere, geography, and—" She paused, studying one particular reading. "They're focusing on the colony now." Kessler's face hardened in the blue light of the screens. "So they know we're here." The internal communication system crackled to life. Thomas's voice came through, tense and urgent. "Marcus, Ilara, you need to get outside now." They rushed down the tower stairs and into the cool night air. Other colonists were emerging from their shelters too, all looking up at the sky. There, visible even without telescopes, was a light moving across the black expanse, far too large and bright to be a star or moon. "My God," whispered Dr. Okafor, who had joined them. "It's really happening." Ilara felt a strange mix of wonder and fear. For 5 years, they had believed themselves abandoned. Now something had arrived. The light grew brighter, and soon they could make out that it wasn't just one light but many, a massive ship with countless illuminated sections moving through the darkness like a city in the sky. It passed over the colony once, bathing them in an eerie violet glow for several seconds, then continued toward the horizon. "It's surveying the entire planet," Ilara said, "tracking its trajectory." "Before deciding what to do with us," Thomas added grimly. As dawn approached, the colonists gathered in the community hall. Few had slept. Director Kessler stood before them, trying to project a confidence none of them felt. "We don't know who they are or what they want," he told the assembled people. "But we've survived 5 years against all odds. We'll face this together too." A young engineer named Maya raised her hand. "What if they're hostile? What can we do against a ship that size?" Before Kessler could answer, Ilara's communicator beeped urgently. She checked it, then looked up at the gathered colonists, her face pale. "They're sending down a shuttle," she announced. "ETA 15 minutes." The colonists looked at each other in silence. 5 years of isolation had ended. First contact was minutes away. Kessler squared his shoulders. "Ilara, Imani, Thomas, with me. We'll meet them. Everyone else stays back." As they walked back toward the colony center, Ilara fell in beside Dr. Okafor. "They speak our language perfectly," she whispered. "Doesn't that strike you as convenient?" Okafor nodded slightly. "And they know about Earth and what happened. How long have they been watching us?" The colonists had gathered in the main square, staring with a mixture of awe and fear as the aliens walked among them. The Kivar moved with precision, their silver eyes constantly scanning, taking in every detail. "These structures are inefficient for this environment," Zillion commented, looking at the colony buildings. "We've made do with what we have," Thomas said, a defensive edge to his voice. "Not easy with no supplies for 5 years." "Indeed," Zillion said, "your adaptation shows resourcefulness. This is valuable." Ilara didn't like the way the alien said valuable, as if assessing goods rather than people. The other Kivar had spread out, examining buildings, equipment, even the soil and plants with handheld devices that emitted soft pulses of light. One approached a small group of children who had been kept back from the initial greeting. The young ones stared up at the towering alien with wide eyes. "Your offspring are small," the Kivar observed, reaching out toward a child's head. Thomas stepped between them quickly. "They're not used to visitors," he said, his hand resting casually near his holstered pistol. The Kivar withdrew its hand and stepped back, but Ilara didn't miss the look it exchanged with Zillion. "We would examine your medical facilities," Zillion announced. "Our vessel carries treatments that may benefit your adaptation to this world." "I'll show you what we have," Dr. Okafor said, leading Zillion and another Kivar toward the building that served as the colony's clinic. Kessler gestured for Ilara to go with them while he continued showing the others around. Inside the clinic, Dr. Okafor showed the aliens their limited medical equipment, most of it improvised or repaired multiple times. Celian seemed particularly interested in the medical records. "You have tracked genetic changes in your population?" the alien asked, examining Dr. Okuffer's notes. "Yes," she said, hesitating slightly. "We've had to adapt to Novara's radiation spectrum. Some colonists developed health issues, but others seem to be developing natural resistance." "Fascinating," Celian said, those silver eyes revealing nothing. "We would like to conduct our own examinations. For your benefit." Ilara stepped forward. "That's not necessary right now. We should rejoin the others." As they left the clinic, Ilara noticed the second Kiver discreetly taking samples from the medical supplies Dr. Okuffer had shown them. She caught the doctor's eye, and her slight nod confirmed she'd seen it too. By midday, more shuttles had arrived carrying containers of supplies, food concentrates, medicine, and parts that might help repair some of their failing equipment. "These are gifts," Celian announced to the gathered colonists, "to demonstrate our intentions." But as the day progressed, Ilara noticed more and more things that bothered her. The Kivar asked detailed questions about the colonists' biology, their adaptations to Novara, their reproductive capabilities. They scanned everything with devices the humans didn't understand, and they seemed far more interested in the people than in helping the colony itself. That evening, while the colonists prepared a feast to welcome their visitors, Ilara slipped away to the communications tower. Something was nagging at her, and she wanted to check the signal records again. She was reviewing the data when Thomas found her. "Ilara, you should join the others," he said. "The Kivar are going to tell us about their proposal for assistance." "In a minute," Ilara said, not looking up from her console. "There's something strange about their signals. When they first arrived, they'd broadcast on frequencies that match our standard emergency bands perfectly. But how would they know those frequencies if they weren't specifically looking for human settlements?" Thomas frowned. "Maybe they picked up your distress signals like they claimed." "Maybe," Ilara said, unconvinced. "But there's something else. When their main ship scanned us, it didn't just scan our colony. It specifically focused on our genetic patterns. Why would rescuers care about our DNA?" Before Thomas could answer, the door opened and one of the Kivar stood there, its tall frame filling the doorway. "Your presence is required at the gathering," it stated flatly. "Commander Celian has an announcement." Human defiance. The communications tower had been Ilara's sanctuary for 5 years. Now, with the Kivar guard watching her every move, it felt like a prison. She quickly saved her work and followed the alien back to the colony center, where the colonists had gathered around tables laden with their best food offerings. Celian stood at the head table beside Director Kessler, waiting until silence fell before speaking. "People of Haven," the alien commander began, "we have assessed your situation. This colony is not viable long-term. Your equipment fails. Your adaptation to this environment is incomplete. Your population is too small for genetic sustainability." The colonists looked at each other nervously as Celian continued. "Therefore, we offer you transport to a better world. All humans will board our vessel tomorrow. We will take you to a planet more suited to your physiology." "Leave Novara?" Kessler asked, clearly surprised. "This has been our home for 9 years. It is a failing colony," Celian said flatly. "You will not survive another decade here." Ilara spoke up, unable to contain her suspicion. "Where exactly would you take us?" Celian's silver eyes fixed on her. "To a settlement where other humans already live. Those we have relocated before." "Other human colonies?" Dr. Okuffer asked. "You found others like us." "Many," Celian confirmed. "All now productive under Kivar supervision." Ilara felt a chill at those words. Supervision. Or something else. "We need time to discuss this," Kessler said carefully. "It's a significant decision." "There is nothing to discuss," Celian stated. "We will begin transport tomorrow. For your own safety, all humans will undergo medical processing aboard our vessel first." Commander's orders. As the colonists began murmuring among themselves, some excited, others worried. Ilara caught Thomas's eye across the room. The security chief gave a nearly imperceptible nod. Something was very wrong here. Night fell over Haven, but few slept. While most colonists packed their meager belongings, preparing for what many hoped would be salvation, Ilara met with Thomas, Dr. Okafor, and Director Kessler in the deepest part of the mining tunnels. "They're not here to help us," Ilara said, keeping her voice low despite being half a mile underground. "I checked our old star charts against the signals they've been sending. The Kivar ship has been transmitting to coordinates that aren't on any of our maps." "I found something too," Dr. Okafor said, activating her tablet. "When they were examining our clinic, I noticed them taking samples of our tissue stores. Later, I checked their medical supplies. The containers they claim hold medicine are actually empty, except for collection chambers. They're not rescuers," Thomas concluded. "They're harvesters." Director Kessler ran a hand over his face. "But why lie? If they have such advanced technology, they could simply take what they want by force." "Not necessarily," Ilara said. "I've been monitoring their communications. Their ship is powerful, but I don't think they have many crew members. I count fewer than 30 Kivar total. They need our cooperation because they're outnumbered." "So what do we do?" Dr. Okafor asked. "We can't fight them with mining tools." Thomas smiled grimly. "Actually, we might. The orbital mining lasers we used when we first arrived. They are still in the warehouse. If we could get them operational and reconfigured." "That would take days," Kessler objected. "We might not have days," Ilara agreed. "But we do have one advantage they don't know about." She pulled up schematics on her tablet. "The communication systems I've maintained, they're not just for sending messages to Earth. They can also interfere with their ship systems if calibrated correctly." "A jammer?" Thomas asked, suddenly interested. "Essentially," Ilara nodded. "If I can match their signal patterns, I could temporarily disable their communications, maybe even their weapon systems." Director Kessler looked at each of them. "So we jam their systems, arm ourselves with mining lasers, and then what?" "We make it clear they're not welcome," Thomas said firmly. "And we're not going anywhere." They worked through the night, spreading word among trusted colonists. Dr. Okafor and her team modified the mining lasers, while Ilara reconfigured the communication array. By dawn, they were ready, just as the first Kivar shuttle descended toward the colony. Zillion and 3 guards emerged, expecting to begin the evacuation. Instead, they found Director Kessler waiting alone in the colony center. "We've considered your offer," Kessler said calmly, "and we've decided to decline." Zillion's silver eyes narrowed. "That is not an option. This planet has already been designated for resource extraction. Your biological adaptations make you valuable specimens for our research." "So the truth comes out," Kessler said. "You're not here to rescue us." "Rescue was never our intention," Zillion stated coldly. "Humans are resources, interesting ones due to your adaptability, but resources nonetheless. You will comply or face elimination." Kessler smiled grimly. "I don't think so." He tapped his communicator twice. The signal. Immediately, Ilara activated her jammer from the communications tower. The effect was instantaneous. The Kivar's armor flickered, the symbols on their surfaces fading. Their weapons dimmed. At the same moment, Thomas and 20 colonists emerged from hiding places around the colony center, modified mining lasers aimed at the aliens. "What have you done?" Zillion demanded, the first hint of emotion, anger, in that alien voice. "Isolated you from your ship," Ilara's voice came over the colony speakers. "Your communications and energy weapons are temporarily disabled." For the first time, the Kivar seemed uncertain. Zillion looked at the armed colonists, clearly recalculating. "You cannot defeat us. Our ship can destroy this colony from orbit once communications are restored, which is why we've already targeted your ship," Thomas bluffed confidently. Dr. Okafor stepped forward. While you were scanning us, we were studying you too. We know the weaknesses in your hull design. One signal from us, and the orbital mining platforms will target those vulnerable sections. It was a desperate bluff. The platforms couldn't possibly damage the alien vessel, but the Kivar couldn't know that. Zillion's silver eyes darted between them. This resistance is unexpected. Perhaps we miscalculated your species value. The standoff lasted several tense minutes. Then Ilara noticed something on her monitor. The Kivar ship was changing position, moving toward their location. They're bringing the ship directly overhead, she warned over the communication system. They must have some backup protocol. Director Kessler didn't flinch. Then we accelerate our timeline. Dr. Okafor, are your modifications ready? Yes, she replied, but I can't guarantee they'll work at this range. Do it, Kessler ordered. Dr. Okafor activated a device she'd been concealing, a modified atmospheric sampler that now emitted a high-frequency pulse targeted at the Kivar's armor. The effect was dramatic. The aliens staggered, their armor plates contracting painfully against their bodies. Zillion dropped to one knee, silver eyes wide with what could only be described as shock. How? The commander gasped. Your armor, Dr. Okafor explained. It's semi-organic, isn't it? And it responds to the same frequencies your bodies use for neural communication. Didn't expect us primitive humans to figure that out, did you? But their advantage was short-lived. Above them, the massive Kivar ship descended through the atmosphere, its hull glowing red with heat. The ground shook with its approach. They're going to land directly on the colony, Thomas warned. Ilara's mind raced. Her jammer was losing effectiveness as the ship drew closer. She needed something stronger, something that could affect the entire vessel at once. Then it hit her, the planet's magnetic field, she said suddenly. Novara's core generates unusual magnetic pulses. It's why our early equipment kept failing. What about it? Kessler asked. If we could amplify those pulses using the mining tunnel's conductive ore veins. She didn't finish the thought, already typing furiously on her console, redirecting power from the colony's main generator to the mining tunnel network. Everyone get to the deep shelters, she ordered over the communication system. Now, as colonists ran for the tunnel entrances, the Kivar ship loomed ever larger overhead, blotting out the sun. Zillion had recovered enough to stand, watching with those disturbing silver eyes. You cannot escape, the alien commander said. Resistance merely determines whether your specimens are damaged or intact. Director Kessler backed slowly toward a tunnel entrance, keeping his weapon trained on Zillion. We'll take our chances. Once everyone was safely underground, Ilara connected the final circuit. The effect was immediate and catastrophic for the Kivar. The massive ship suddenly lurched in the sky, its smooth trajectory disrupted as systems failed across its hull. Lights flickered and died. Segments of its structure began to separate. Through the tunnel's monitoring cameras, they watched as the vessel struggled against Novara's suddenly amplified magnetic field, its systems unable to compensate. With a groaning sound that penetrated even deep underground, the ship veered away, climbing awkwardly back toward space. On the surface, the four Kivar found themselves abandoned, their armor systems failing completely under the magnetic assault. When Thomas and his security team emerged to confront them, the aliens offered no resistance. Your species is more resourceful than our records indicated, Zillion said as they were secured in the colony's storage facility, the closest thing they had to a prison. This outcome was unexpected. There's a lot about humans you don't understand, Ilara replied. Starting with this, we don't abandon our home without a fight. The colony spent days in anxious anticipation of retaliation, but the Kivar ship had retreated to the edge of the system, apparently conducting repairs. Their four prisoners provided valuable information, some willingly, some not, about the wider galaxy. The Kivar were not conquerors in the traditional sense, but collectors, gathering biological specimens from across the stars for study and exploitation. Earth hadn't been directly targeted, but isolated colonies like Haven were considered easy harvesting opportunities. 2 weeks after the confrontation, as life in the colony was beginning to return to a nervous normal, Ilara's console lit up with a new signal, this one on a frequency she recognized instantly. "Director." She called over the communicator, her voice breaking. "I'm receiving a transmission from Earth." The message, when decoded, explained everything. The conflict that had isolated them had indeed been devastating, but Earth had survived. Recovery had been slow, with deep space communications only recently restored. They had been searching for lost colonies for over a year. More importantly, the message contained a warning. Unknown alien vessels had been detected harvesting distant human outposts. Earth was sending a defense force, but it would take months to reach them. "A bit late," Thomas said with grim satisfaction when they gathered to discuss the message. "We handled it ourselves. And we learned something valuable," Dr. Okafor added. "The Kivar aren't the only species out there. But now we know we can defend ourselves." Director Kessler nodded, looking around at the weathered faces of the colony leadership. "We should respond to Earth. Tell them what happened here." "And what should we say?" Ilara asked, her fingers poised over the communication console. Kessler smiled, the first genuine smile she had seen from him in years. "Tell them Haven Colony stands strong. Tell them we're not just surviving anymore, we're thriving. And tell them," he paused, looking at each of them, "tell them humanity just made its mark on the stars." As Ilara composed the message, she glanced out the tower window at the colony below. Children played in the square, their laughter carrying up to her. Nearby, the captured Kivar technology was being studied, already yielding improvements to their medical facilities and power systems. They had been forgotten, abandoned at the edge of human space. They had faced an advanced alien threat, seeking to harvest them like resources, and against all odds, they had prevailed. Ilara added one final line to her message before sending it across the void to Earth. "Haven Colony awaits your arrival. But don't rush. We've got things handled here."